everybody, we got another Ren reaction. We have been jumping into the chapters feet first, and we are here on number 3. So far, we've learned about Ren's losses with struggles, his medical issues, getting into music, and how that made him feel connected to God and an escape from his torment he was under with his medical condition. So interested to see where we go with this one. Looks like we're in, no, actually, I guess it is the same setting, I think. It's just shot in a very different angle, and then obviously in the grayscale. We'll see if that changes, but let's jump in. Looks like he's gonna just start right off the jump talking, so if I have to adjust audio, I will.
My therapist was scowling at my weekly anxiety and depression scores like a detective trying to crack a particularly stubborn case. There were no signs of improvement, and the scores followed no real measurable pattern that were consistent with bipolar. After nearly 2 years of talk therapy and taking enough medications to fill a pharmacy, he sat down with me and he dropped the bombshell that he didn't think that I had bipolar. In fact, he said that he didn't think that I had depression at all. And it was a very odd thing to be stripped of an identity in an instant. The reality was that a 20-minute in-and-out consultation 2 years ago led to 2 years of swallowing pills that I never needed and devoting so much of my time to...
It's so sick and frustrating that that happens, man. Like, we need more access to medical professionals, like just plain and simple. When things aren't lining up with a treatment or a diagnosis, you should be able to freely go back and visit. Like, I don't know why we don't build the system in a way where that's more appropriate. It's seen as this like big deal almost to get a doctor's appointment or something like that, rather than I feel like it should be more like, well, like an appointment with a therapist or something where it's, you know, when you're trying to improve and get healthier, you go and see them a lot so they can track their progress, try different things, try to like, but it's never like that. Even when you have serious conditions, it's like, oh, here, start on this pill and come back in 6 months and we'll see how progress is. You know what I mean? Like, just leaves it with way too much time for misdiagnoses. When I was going through my thing with my allergies, I had to harass doctors, set up other appointments, ask for second opinions, everything else. Like, I went to 2 different regular doctors, 2 different ENT doctors, 2 different allergy specialists, until I got to one that thought I had cancer, so sent me in for the endoscopy, and that's what ended up leading to the actual diagnosis of a new developed food allergy. But you know what I mean? Like, I had to go through all these people, and I had to push for that. It just, it seems so broken. Like, why weren't the doctors that I had wanting to follow up quickly with the treatments they were giving me when they didn't work, and try other things and think maybe it could be this or maybe it could be that? And, you know, I mean, a lot of medicine is a guessing game, so I just don't understand why it seems like every doctor you get is locked into whatever their initial diagnosis is. They're like, oh, nope. It is this. I will only treat you for this. If you don't think it's this and you think I'm wrong and my 30 years of medical school was a waste of money, then you can go try someone else. You know, it just is like, I just don't understand. You know, versus you meet with a therapist, right? Like, you might go down a treatment path for a little bit. You know, if it's not working and you're not feeling better, you're not developing the skills you need or finding resolutions, then they're going to change up that therapy, right? Like, I just don't understand why medicine is treated so differently. I mean, I do. It's for money, right? Pills that treat symptoms and not resolve issues make a lot more money. It's just, I don't know.
Managing the condition that I never actually had. The emotions inside me swirled around like a mismatched soup. On one hand, I was full of anger and I was bitter about the whole situation. But I was also hopeful that this new path could offer me the relief that I desperately needed. He told me he was going to refer me to an ME clinic in Bath. I'd never heard of it before, but instinctively true to character, I started researching it online as soon as I got home. Apparently ME is the medical equivalent of a choose-your-own-adventure book, with tiredness as the only consistent plotline. There were no universally accepted reasons as to why the fuck it existed in the first place. It seemed it was largely accepted to be a post-viral condition, but that was all speculative, because there were no clear consensus in the medical community what ME even was. The defining characteristic was a tiredness that wouldn't go away with rest. I could relate to this. In fact, I could more than relate to it. For anyone lucky enough to not have experienced this, if you want an idea of what it's like, force yourself to stay awake for 3 nights in a row. During this time, eat the food that makes you feel terrible, and in this sleep-deprived state, exercise until your muscles give out. By the third day, you'll have a small insight into living with this condition. During the years post-stem cell transplant, where I recovered a lot of my health and functionality, I remember getting COVID and thinking it was a walk in the park compared to the first year of my illness. The difference was COVID lasted about a week. The thick of my illness lasted 8 years, and it only was getting worse. I pinned a lot of hope on going to that first visit at the ME clinic. It was a 6-month waiting list, God bless NHS wait times, but I felt excited to be surrounded by people who would understand me, where I could climb out of this nightmare. But my hopes were pretty quickly crushed during that first visit. I remember walking into a space that looked like a disused classroom where a bunch of people on chairs were sitting around in circles like Alcoholics Anonymous. I could feel a sense of camaraderie and that we all felt like dog shit. We were all confused and we were all desperately wanting to feel better. I believe at the time I was probably the youngest in the group. The group leader waddled in and handed us all a booklet that looked like a school timetable. She then sat us down and told about this new revolutionary technique called pacing, where you write down and track everything that you do in a day, and then you do it less. And then with time, do it more again. The theory being that you have a limited bucket of energy compared to normal people, and you need to protect that and gradually push it. I thought this sounded pretty stupid, so I raised my hand. I told her about the pain in my body. I told her that my muscles twitched constantly. I told her that my bones ached. I told her that my mouth was dry. I couldn't focus. That some days they'd be without mercy and I'd be trapped in bed for the whole day. But
yeah, I just don't get, no one's like, I mean, I don't know what the health system is like over there in England. I recently was watching Instagram stories from a woman going through something similar in Canada. She kept having to come down to America because then she would get seen, tested, cured, or diagnosed and treated, and she would feel better. Then she'd go up to Canada again. She'd have to wait for these doctor visits. When she got ill, they wouldn't give her a diagnosis right away. They would do that. And they actually got to the point where they were recommending euthanasia to her. And her husband, scraped together what money they could, sent her back down to America. And within like a couple months of getting treated in the American healthcare system, she was back to normal after the Canadian government health system was ready to end her life. So I don't know. It's odd. Obviously, the American health system isn't perfect either because it's insanely expensive. But at least here, if you're willing to pay, you can see doctors all day and night if you want to. Not wait, 6 months, get a support group that basically just tells you to do less.
Days that I wanted to make the most of it. I wanted to breathe the air and I wanted to live. She told me she understood it's hard, but she didn't really offer more than that. She just pointed at the booklet and told me to follow it. I asked her about things like heavy metal poisoning, about chronically reactivating viruses, about defective mitochondria, about all the things that I read that were linked to chronic fatigue, but she just raised an eyebrow, looked at me like I was a hypochondriac and told me she knew nothing about those things. I remember walking out of the building feeling disheartened and defeated, so much so that my legs buckled as I was walking home. I began to sob uncontrollably on the side of the road. An old woman knelt down to comfort me and asked me what was wrong. I didn't even really know how to explain, so I just told her that I missed my friend. Despite my skepticism, I stuck to the program for at least half a year, and I kept going for my periodic visits to the clinic, and it did jack shit. In fact, I got worse. I was always getting worse. One thing that particularly struck me about the ME support groups was the pure desperation and confusion. With most other conditions, you're given a diagnosis, a prognosis of whether it's going to kill you, and what you can do to manage it or cure it. With ME, you don't get that. You get an indeterminately long sentence to purgatory. You feel worse than you've ever felt in your whole life, and you're given no explanation as to why, and no signpost pointing the way out. There was no selection bias to the people suffering. Members of the group were anything from esteemed ex-lawyers to single parents to former athletes. One thing I can say, these people were for the most part all extremely driven and collectively mourning their old lives. There's a stigma that because ME's predominant presentation of symptoms is tiredness, that its victims are just being lazy. I can tell you firsthand that me and every single person I've met with genuine ME would rather run 1,000 marathons than have to live another week with the tiredness and the unrelenting fatigue. We were at war with our tiredness, trying desperately to escape it, and some of us would go to extreme lengths to turn ourselves into guinea pigs to try and find ways out. Suicide was pretty common in those online support groups. It was around this time I was swallowed into the music industry. I was out busking on the streets one day and I noticed this sketchy, good-looking Mauritian guy with his arms crossed watching me, really intensely, as though he was studying every lyric coming out of my mouth. He approached me and asked me if the songs I was singing were mine. I said they were. A big smile was painted across his face, and he told me he just finished recording Plan B's latest record, which turned out to be The Defamation of Strickland Banks, one of my favourite albums of all time. He was looking for a new project to sink his teeth into, and he asked me if I'd come to London to record. We got into it. The whole time I felt dreadful, but this was a lifelong dream materialising in front of my eyes, so bit by bit, when I could, I'd get the train to London and start chipping away at my first ever album. I didn't really let on how I was feeling during this time because I didn't want to sabotage it. There would be times I'd finish up in the vocal booth after doing the take, excuse myself to go to the toilet, throw up from the dizziness I was experiencing, sometimes with specks of blood, and then I'd go back and pretend that nothing had happened. I'd be sitting around with the whole room spinning and would pretend I was fine. There was only so long that I was able to keep this up. Eric told me it'd be a cool idea for me to start going to industry showcases and start building buzz. Performing live like this was a whole new level of taxing that I wasn't ready for, but I was so ferociously ambitious that I just ploughed through. The usual way it would go is I'd be in the back of Charlie's car, the whole world would be spinning, I'd be trying my best to sleep in it all day, parked up outside of whatever venue or pub it was in London, trying to conserve energy for the show. Sometimes I'd cry a little before I performed. My whole body would be burning. Then I'd brush it off and I'd get on stage and I'd perform as best I could. People would come up to me at the end, pat me on the back. I'd smile and pretend to be charismatic. Then I'd get back in the car and I wish I was in bed and have to endure a 3-hour drive back to Bath from London. There was only a few shows where I could keep pretending. I'd usually be trying to disguise the fact that my body was trembling through the fatigue and pain. Eventually I started crying mid-set. It became blindingly obvious to everyone working with me during that time that something was very wrong. I told Eric that I needed to take some time out. My plan was to live at home with my mum for a month maximum, get my energy back, and come and finish the record. That 1 month turned into 2 months, turned into 3 months, turned into 6 months. I'd pushed myself to total burnout. The distance led to me and that angel breaking up, in part because it was difficult to navigate a relationship when you have so much brain fog, and I didn't know what it was well enough to be able to explain it to her at the time. With a loud thud, I'd been jolted out of a Shakespearean storyline, I lost the record deal, and I couldn't get out of bed. My friends from Trick the Fox never really called to check up on me. It felt like the whole world was moving at lightning speed without me. I had this amazing opportunity right in front of me, and I was chained to the floor. I was alone, I was sick. I wished that my condition would get it over with and kill me, but it wouldn't, and it felt cruel that it wouldn't. It just let me rot in bed. The whole world would continue to turn, and I would rot. In the next episode, I'm going to tell you about a fight with a television and losing my anal virginity to an 80-year-old man. Stay tuned for that.
What the fuck? Okay. Yeah, that part threw me off. I can definitely empathize with the fatigue element. I don't know if I've ever felt it quite to the extent he described. Honestly, maybe the other day when I randomly got sick during that recording kind of felt like what he was talking about. But I've always had a very bad relationship with sleep, hence the very deep bags under my eyes that I've developed in my life. I don't know. I've been diagnosed of just about every sleep condition. Nothing's really ever helped me, from, sleep apnea to insomnia to, restless leg stuff to everything else they've tried to treat me for, and it didn't really seem to do any difference. Yeah, still something I struggle with, but get through it. Biggest thing for me is that my body doesn't want to sleep every day. It doesn't seem to want to sleep every day. Like, my internal clock just feels like it's programmed to like a 30-hour day cycle or something like that. It's very hard for me to keep any schedule. And even when I keep the schedule and go to bed at the times I should go to bed, I can't fall asleep. And then if I force myself to wake up at the same time, then I'm just tired throughout the day, and I still can't fall asleep at night. So it's weird. I've just learned to manage it. If I'm on one of those parts of the cycle where my body wants me to stay up at night, I'll just stay up at night. I'll just not sleep, or I'll sleep every other day for a little bit until it kind of loops back around, if that makes any sense. That's how I've always been pretty much since my teens. It really started around when I hurt my back, is when my sleep got really, really thrown off. And that's when I first tried the different insomnia medicines. And I mean, they put me on Ambien and that made me trip balls. So then they tried putting me on trazodone and that made me have some mental feelings I didn't like. And then they put me on Sonata, and that kind of worked, but then it didn't really make me feel energized or awake the next day. It's like, well, what's the point of going to sleep on time if I'm going to feel just as tired as if I just stayed up? The only thing that actually really worked very well was medicinal cannabis. I was on that for a few years. That worked great for resolving my back issues and actually loosening up a lot of those muscles that get all out of whack when I blew out my disc, and made my sleep schedule great. But then got off of that as well after a few years, just because I didn't like what it seemed to be doing to my cognitive abilities. Like my memory wasn't as good and my critical thinking and a lot of that stuff seemed to be kind of slipping a bit, which is why I think it's interesting that we're in post-legalized cannabis state in America and critical thinking seems to be at an all-time low in America. So it feels like there's a relation there, at least to me, because there was nothing else causing me to quit it. I totally stopped using that of my own volition. I had a medical card and everything back before it was legal, and I stopped before it was legal. I picked it up a couple times since then when my sleep or my pain has gotten really bad, and I'll use it for a month or two, but then it's, the same thing. I start seeing my cognitive abilities slip. I have a hard time with some short-term memory stuff. I start having a hard time analyzing and dissecting things in my brain like I normally would. Whenever I get to that point, you can pay me to stay on it because like my mental function and my ability to process the world and what I see and hear and think is far more important to me than a good night's sleep or some pain or anything else, just from my perspective in the life I've lived. Anyway, does he have a song? Looks like it. Let's see.
Thought patterns are composed by a time bomb for an author, like pigs to the slaughter. A symphony of self-doubt sings out, breath starts getting shorter, running water. It's the state that I wish to become. Instead, concrete envelops my movement and I'm rendered deaf and dumb, unable to heed the advice of others. Don't tell me things will get better, cause so far things haven't gotten better. I've got the sweater, poster child, bipolar, ADHD, therapist, wet dream. I don't want to talk about my father, I don't want to talk about my dead friend, I don't want to talk about myself. I'm sick of talking about myself. I'm sick of talking about myself and realizing that talking about myself never ever helps. Still, I call for help, cause I really want help. But the pills didn't seem to help, and the therapist didn't seem to help. But still, I want help. I've danced with the devil in hell, I've sat in a prisonless cell, and here I always dwell, in this prison in myself. I do this thing where my mind travels back to the golden age. You know those times where you were carefree and everything was golden? The golden age. You know those times where everything was golden, where you were carefree and everything was golden? The hardest thing I ever had to do was come to terms with the fact that that time never really existed. I've always felt so fucking detached and broken, bruised and mismatched. Find it hard to relax, living under the cracks. Tried to fill in the gaps, lying here on my back. Still, I can't find it. Sense of peace in my mind declined it. Pulse increase and my sweat combines with a feeling so deep I fall inside it.
Depression, I hate you, depression. Your constant oppression, respond with aggression. They say depression brings you lessons. Constant stressing conceals blessings. You will grow in broken settings. Fuck those lessons, fuck depression. I've been living in your shadow for so long that I forgot how I can shine. How I can find a refuge in my mind. How am I meant to sit here and unwind? The planets align, I feel like I'm cursed. Feel like I'm cursed to just be here to hurt. Feel like I'm cursed to just be here to bleed. But my demons been feeling this way since birth. Depression, I hate you. 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 Depression, I hate you.
Interesting song. I like the style and everything. Wasn't crazy about the video. I normally like his lyric videos, but that white strobing, I can't do it. I don't know why, but like strobing lights like that just bug my eyes a lot. So that's why I was like looking down the whole time. Sorry if that ruins a bit of the reaction element, but it's yeah, I don't know. It gives me the same sensation as when somebody like shines a flashlight in my face whenever there's like strobing lights like that. Like that pulsing of especially white light. Ugh, I can't take it. All my browsers are on dark mode. You know, I've known a lot of people, obviously counseled some people that struggle with depression and stuff. I don't know. I've always had a hard time when it comes to depression, like personally relating, because for me, I've definitely been in those dark places, but I can usually rationally analyze why I'm there. And if I can't find a path out, why I can't find a path out, why I'm feeling hopeless and trapped and angry and sad and all this stuff. So I never, well, I don't know. I guess that's not entirely true. I was going to say I've never felt this like just emotional cloud that I couldn't get rid of, even when I didn't have any rational reason to feel any kind of sadness. I just felt it even though I was trying to choose not to. I was going to say that, but I remembered, you know, after my mom passed, I definitely went through a period where I was having like intrusive thoughts and other things like that I did not want to have, and I rationally shouldn't have them, but they were still coming in and present. But I went through therapy and got that resolved, so it was a fairly short-lived experience. So I don't think about it as much because I wasn't stuck in it for so long. But usually, I mean, like, I would say I was depressed during the years I was going through the suppression campaigns, ruining, you know, my brand and my business, and then after that, I had a bunch of bad stuff happen with family members dying and my dad's house flooding and everything else. I've told you guys some about that in other videos, but like that whole time I knew why I was upset. I knew why I felt like shit. I knew why I felt hopeless in the world. You know what I mean? So it wasn't, oh, I have this sad feeling that I just can't get rid of. It was, no, I have this sad feeling because everything in my life is just going to shit for no apparent reason. So I don't know. Maybe some of you guys that struggle with it can add a little more context down in the chat. But good song, more interesting backstory, learning more and more about him each one. So I'm kind of intrigued on the next one. Did he actually sleep with an 80-year-old man? Because that's pretty insane, right? I'm just, that's kind of shocking. So we'll see, I guess. So huge shout out to all my supporters, guys. Make sure you're commenting on the videos, liking, all of that good stuff. If you want to help support the channel for free, those things cost nothing to do and help me out a ton. So I would appreciate it. Even if you're just dropping a heart or a thumbs up, drop one of those comments down there, like the video, helps it out way more than you could know. If you do really enjoy my content and want to help support us directly, you can tip through YouTube with the heart down below the video. I have a direct support donation link in the description, and you can always become a channel member for as low as 99 cents a month. Thank you guys for being here. Let's get back to work. Keep praying. I'll see you in the next one.